This last episode is going to be focusing on using 3D Warehouse, piggybacking on top of something that people have already done. So we'll start back here as steel beams, column, slab, foundation, connectors. Today, all we're going to do is fill that in that grid with bar joists, metal decking, and a concrete slab, and we'll just call this done. Eventually, you could take this so far as to get it to a point like this, which is, the windows and glass and all that in here, insulation, columns potentially for a second floor, that sort of thing. But we'll just go back to this point, try to locate bar joists and metal decking in 3D Warehouse, which is not difficult. It is a conservatively numbered, probably millions of parts and pieces and complete buildings in 3D Warehouse. So pretty much anything you're looking for, you'll probably find there. So what we're going to do here today is fill in these open span spaces with bar joists from 3D Warehouse. So we'll start there. I have a toolbar that's, I believe it's called Warehouse. Yeah. Should be able to find that from right-clicking items at the top. Let me see if I can get to it. It's way down at the bottom, I guess. Warehouse. Yeah, it's at the bottom of the list. W, it makes sense. So in other words, to let you know what I just did, I right-clicked on any toolbar, and we got this option for selecting any toolbar that you want that you've got available in your system. I should say within your SketchUp system. So what we'll do is we'll start looking for some for a bar joist, and we'll go to the warehouse icon up there in the toolbar, and it'll bring you up to this 3D Warehouse opening screen, which is stuff that's kind of being broadcast to you. The stuff in the middle is actual manufacturer's information. And the rest of this kind of is whatever happens to want to be there at this point in time. So this is kind of a dynamic page. Sort of doesn't matter because you're going to search anyway. So up here at the top, there's search, and it says all categories. You can click on that. I think there's probably a bunch of others. Yeah. You could pick architecture here in this case, I guess, if you want to, but I'd rather keep it widespread. So we'll type in bar joist, so that's what we're looking for. And we'll just pick bar joist, the vanilla version. And we'll look for models. Be careful, you don't want to pick products unless there happens to be somebody located their products here, but it doesn't look like it. So pick models. These are models that individuals have contributed, as well as you could contribute your stuff if you like. There's a place to upload here on this particular page. So if you wanted to contribute basically a component to the 3D Warehouse, you can do that. So I'm going to pick, looks like I'll just pick this one here. So it says bar joist. It's under furniture, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So the category is wrong. We'll pick download. It'll ask you if you want to download directly into your model, and most of the time you'll say yes. If you pick no, it's going to ask you where do you want to put it. So then you would need a repository, I guess you want to call it, for all the stuff that you've, I don't know if I want that one. That's pretty long. I'm going to select a different one. No, this one over here. So I'll select bar joist. Yeah, this one's a little more simple. So I picked one that's fairly simple. We'll download it directly into your model. I'll say yes. It should show up on the end of your cursor or somewhere there. This is kind of interesting. This guy modeled this with the person still in in the model. So we'll just go ahead and delete wherever that is. There's our bar joist. So this is something that someone else has prepared. We get the benefit of that. And if we contribute stuff on their case, on their side, then they'll get the benefit of ours. This actually doesn't look too bad. It looks like it might fit pretty well. So I'm just going to grab it and set it on top of this piece of steel. There we go. Let's see what we got. That's interesting. It's actually too long. It needs to go from point A to point B and inside here. So just within one of these grid spaces. And it's pretty deep. So you're going to get what you get, and you have to modify it. So that's 3'3" deep. So that's really large. I'm going to move this up so I can get to it. I'm going to change it. I'm going to put it in at 20 feet. So when I moved it up, I'm going to type 20 feet so I know how far to bring it back down. What I want to do here is scale this. So we're going to do scale and pick this one in the center. I'm going to scale this down by about 0.6. Now we'll see what the depth is. Around 2 feet. That's probably reasonable. And then we're going to have this bar joist back where it was. 20 feet back down. And it's probably not quite in the right place, never is. So we'll get this up on top here like we had it before. And I want to shorten this is what I'd like to do. So it looks to me like we can do this with a percentage. The distance between these two beams is 30, let's call it 32 feet. And we want it to be 16'9". 16.75 divided by 32 equals 0.52. So we're going to scale this at 0.52 in length. Get in the middle, otherwise it'll get twisted on you. I'll type in 0.523 actually. 0.523. Okay. So if I've done this right, and I don't know if I did or not, we're going to be closer. Looks like I'm a little long still. What I'm trying to do is get inside this guy. I think I'm going to scale it again. Okay. That's got it. So what I did is scaled this bar joist down to fit within these columns. I think it's still a little long. These should be back at the other side. So I'm going to scale it again. So I'll get this other side. I just want it to go back, I don't know, half this beam, 4 inches, I suppose. So we've scaled that down to fit into this beam space. Now we have 16-foot modules, so bar joists usually are somewhere in the area of 4 to 6 feet spacing. And since we have 16 feet, it seems like 4 feet would probably be our best bet. So I'm going to just find a location that's centered on this beam. Since it's on the 16-foot increment, it's 5.5. Go 2 3/4 was the guideline. Move this bar joist. Let's see, I don't want to move the bar joist yet. I want to put another guideline out this way. I just clicked on the right arrow key so I can keep that on the red arrow, on the red axis. So I'll type in 48. That's where our first bar joist is going to be. Now, if we get this one in the right place, everything else is easy from there. So we'll get down in here. I'm going to get as close as I can. I'm not too worried about this being perfect. I'm just typing in numbers. It's a little easier sometimes to type in numbers instead of trying to place it exactly where you want. I'm going to call this good so I don't waste a bunch of time. You could come in here and fix this one too if you wanted to. But I'm going to call that good. So we have a 4-foot space from this beam to this joist. And we want these to be 4 foot on center, the ones coming from there. So move Control to copy. And I type in 48 for 48 inches. And we'll go 4x. Looks like we got more than we need. 3x. That didn't quite do what I wanted to do. It should have backed off down to 3 again, but I don't know what I did. But SketchUp will take any bit of input that you put in there and give you another chance if you haven't done something else first, which I probably did according to what happened there. So I'm going to move this over so it's not on the edge. I'll lay it right there, so it's going to come on the other side, so we're going to be a little short in that spacing. Take this other one and move it over. Now here, I don't know exactly how I want to handle this. And I think I'm going to go backwards here for a minute. Take this and put it all the way at the end. So we got our end joist toward the end of the beam. I'll copy this over, move Control, put this one, let's see, about there for now. So move Control, that makes a copy, and what I'm going to do is make an array. So right now I'd make an array at 4 foot on center. I think that's what I'm going to do. 48 inch is the distance. I'm going to type in 5x. So there's 5 now. I think I'm going to go all the way across. Let's go 8x. Okay, good. So I can type in whatever number. If I want multiple joists, I can type in x afterwards. If I want them divided between a certain space, I can type in divide by, which basically puts all the joists or whatever item you're copying the same exact distance apart. So these should all be 4 foot on center. The ones on the ends are going to have to be different. Four foot. Get in there. 4 foot on center. Perfect. Okay, so we have that. What we're going to do is make a group out of these. These are all, by the way, they're probably components. Because anything that comes out of 3D Warehouse is a component. So yeah, you can see it says 9 components in the model. So here's our 9. So keep in mind that these will match each other if you change them. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm going to pick all of these joists. What I want to do is make a group out of the whole thing so I can copy it more easily. So right click, make group. And we're going to copy this over. Move Control for single copy. I'll go from the same side of the same column, same side of 2 different columns. And we'll do the same thing again. We'll go the other direction. stay on axes. You can see it's on the green axis, and it would stay there. Here I'm going to go 32 feet. So that's 3 bays now. So I have bar joists all the way across the whole thing. So as you can see, once you do one bar joist, you get as many as you want, unless they're all different. But obviously in this case, they're all the same. Now this one has to move over a bit. Should be a component or a group by itself, you know. I'll just move it over a tad. The metal decking will span that space. It's nice to get all the joists the same length if you can, even if they set a little differently on the beams. That way everything's the same. You don't have to worry about it. So we'll just check that. Looks like they're all in pretty good shape. And you can see that there's enough space for the bar joist to sit on top of the beam. And you'll notice, and I did this not on purpose, but it's a good thing to do, leave a space here. So if the bar joists expand, or mostly expand, that contraction will not cause any problems. But if it expands, it has a place to expand right here in this joint. You'll have 2 of them, so it's kind of like a control joint. So there's our structure for the metal deck. I'm going to go ahead and, believe it or not, just keep making groups out of all of this. I'm making one big group of everything there. Okay, so that's the bar joist. Then we'll put metal decking on this, and we're going to be pretty close to being done, except for a concrete slab. Metal decking as well comes from the 3D warehouse. So I'll go up. It's still not the ones that I want. Metal deck. Let's try that. Oh, here it is. This is the one I like. So, you know, there's lots of them. You can download as many as you want, but when you're done in a drawing, either put them somewhere in your computer for like a library, or just delete them. Otherwise, you start getting loaded up in your model and in your computer for that matter. We'll download this, yes. Here's our metal decking. And okay. All right, so basically you just need to come in and place this on top of the bar joist. And as you can see, it's the wrong direction. It's got to be rotated 90 degrees. So Q, this has to run perpendicular to the bar joist, like so. And we're going to go ahead and slide this. Let's see, it's not 4 feet wide, so let's get it 4 feet wide first. So check, let's see what we got. I want this to center on the bar joist. It's 3'4", so I need to add. So I double click and get inside of this component. And because everything underneath here is not is a component as well, I can't mess with it by changing some things here above it. That's weird. There we go. So what I'm doing is stretching this. And all I'm doing is with the window, I'm picking just the edge of this decking. And that'll allow me to stretch it. So I'm going to stretch it by using move and just sliding it along that edge of that decking, 8 inches. Just typed in 8 inches. That's what I needed extra. So that now should fit pretty much exactly in the center. So again, here you could leave a space in there, which is not the worst idea. I'm going to go ahead and drag that over to the end here. Get it so it sits out by this beam. Now what I'm going to do is take a guideline with the tape measure tool and run it up on this flange of this beam so I can know where that is. And then just move the decking back to that point. So now I should have an alignment between that and the beam. So you get the first one in the right place and the rest of them should just fall right into place pretty easily. Now this is a group, and I think what I'd like to do, because there's so many of them, I didn't do this with the bar joists because they were all the same, but this are going to be spread out all over the place, and I may have several iterations of this. So I'm going to go ahead and make it a component. That's a little backwards from what most people tell you, but in this case, I think it'll work best. Move, control to bring this over. Get in there and make sure it's right. Yep, that's right. This side here, we're going to be a little short because of that, because of this space right here, I guess is what I want to say. Okay, so there's our first set of decking. So I don't like this spacing that I've got here, so I'm going to go ahead and move all of this over. This is a good reason for having a group. I can move everything together. I want this bar joist to be more on the edge. You can see everything's moving together. And I want this particular piece of decking to be a little tighter to this bar joist's outside edge. Stay on axes so you can keep these things in line where they're supposed to be. I'm going to let that deck hang out a little bit further. I'll cantilever it a bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we got the first piece of decking in there. And this one will stretch out because this one needs to be a little bit bigger. You know what I need to do is I need to make this piece unique. So I'm going to pick it. I don't want this piece over here to do the same thing I'm doing to this piece. So I want to keep this at 4 feet and this one a little wider than 4 feet. So right click, make unique. Then I'll keep this piece on the right from changing to match the piece on the left. Just with a window, go in like we did before and pick that edge. And then use move, and you can put the cursor wherever you like. It's something to help you guide you as good. Just a little too far. There we go. So now we have that panel that fits that particular instance. So it's, I don't know, 8 inches wider or something. So we'll do the rest of these. These should be easy. They're 4 foot on center. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6x. So copied it 6 times. That actually looks pretty good. So now that we have all this decking, we can just go ahead and multiply it again going the other way. Pick all of these. And we'll go the other way and I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think. Move control. And we'll go 4 feet, I think, 48. No, it's more than that. It's 96, I think. Yeah. Let's check it. see where we're at. Just a little off. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this row. Move, control. I'm going to get in here and get a little more specific, hopefully. From here to the other end. Got that too low. Bring it up. There we go. Just got to keep your eye on stuff. Sometimes the things will jump around on you. Let's try this again. I'm going to go with 3. Move, control. You can see they're all still highlighted, so I don't have to do that again. Let's try 8 feet. Okay. Then I don't know what's going to happen here. 3x. It still worked. I didn't know if it was going to make me crazy by going off in the other direction because I've put it one direction then the other. But it didn't. So there's our metal decking. When we do this part here to shorten this up, I'm going to go ahead and make this one unique. And then we're going to go ahead and delete all of these. So I want to be able to just reproduce it once when I do it down here one time. I'm just going to go ahead and take this piece, end of this piece out. I'm just erasing. Using the delete key, I guess, is a little more correct. So I've chopped it off, and I will just go ahead and reproduce it. So in other words, I don't have to do this chopping off more than one time. So let's see, move, control, 4 feet, and I think 6x, maybe more than that, 7. Nice part is you can just keep putting numbers in until you got it right. So if I wanted to put, say, 3x, I can go back to 3, which means I got 4. It means 3 more. 7x. So I can keep changing that until I'm happy, which is pretty cool. So there's our metal decking. Done, done, and done. All that's left to do is put the metal slab, or the concrete slab on here. And we'll be done with this episode, this wonderful adventure we've been on. Now all of this is in other groups and or components, so we can draw right over the top of this, which is the magic to all of that. I think what I'm going to do is grab all of this decking. So I'm going to get on the side here and just make a window sideways, and that should pick everything. But it doesn't pick anything that I don't want it to pick because they're all in groups. So right click, make group. There we go. So now that whole thing is one piece. Okay, that's the metal decking. Doesn't look like much when you separate it, but that's what it is. It's 1.5 inches thick, that's all that it is. So the detail on that is kind of nice. Somebody actually spent some time drawing that. I certainly wouldn't want to. So Magic 3D Warehouse, you can the advantage of someone else's work. And they're perfectly happy to do that because you hopefully would return the favor at some point. Got a little extra hanging out here on this deck. Not sure if I do or not. I'm just trying to take a guideline, put it along that edge. Yeah, you can see that there's a little bit of this extra sticking out here. I'm just going to take a guideline on that. Find that point and just draw a line down here. As you know, if you can put a line through it, there you go. Filled in that face and cut this off. That's all in one swoop. These are components because you can see it's duplicated all the way through there. So by doing that component, it allows you to cut just one and they all are cut off. Eliminate the guides on my tool and my keyboard. I use a J as a shortcut for edit, delete guides. So you can see the J over here in the window. So I use a lot of guides, so I made a shortcut for that. It's always a good idea to pay attention to what you do all the time and make shortcuts for them. So anyway, we got to put this deck on here. And we, like I said before, we can draw on this. We're going to draw on this line, on this corner. We're just going to come up. I'm going to say 10 feet. Then what I'm going to do with this is take it and copy it to all these other corners. So what's going to happen here is that the top of these lines will be all in the same height. Or if not, close enough to use them. So what I'll do is draw this concrete slab up in the air. If I can do this right, if I did it right, I can use a rectangle. There we go. Sometimes it's a little funky to try to do that, but you stay with it for a minute or two, it'll come around. So that's our slab. Pull this up 4 inches for the thickness. Get rid of this extra stuff. And triple click on this so I get the whole thing. I want to get everything and make a group. So as you notice, I'm making groups just about out of everything as I go. That keeps them from sticking together and allows you to control making a mess of your model. If you've been working at SketchUp for any time, at least even on a preliminary basis, you've probably run into a situation where you've destroyed your model. Inadvertently, of course, but that's a way to save yourself from that problem. So I'm trying to figure out what I got going on here. That's the group, okay. So this is it, we're done. What did I do, lose the concrete pad? Oh, I see. I got it under the deck. Get it up on this corner. Bring the slab over to that corner. Oops. The slab, please. There we go. I wanted to put it on that line. And I need to bring it down a bit so it's sitting on the deck. This isn't perfect because this would actually, concrete would actually go down into those ribs, but I ain't spending the time to do that. It just takes too much effort, especially for me. So I think I'll go ahead and extend this deck. or push-pull. Basically, I call it stretch. Turn that over so it's at the edge of this slab so we got some support. We'll need something more in here at some point, channel or angle or something. So there we have it. If you want, you can put some concrete on this colors. We'll go to asphalt and concrete. And it sort of doesn't matter. You just look for something that looks right. Now, when you do that on a component or a group, it'll paint the whole thing for you. It's a little busy, a little too tight for me, so we can edit that. We go to edit in the materials box, and down here at the bottom there's some numbers, like this says 1 foot by 1 foot. That's X and Y directions. So it's sort of just a relative number. It doesn't mean a whole lot. We can type in 36, and that's gotten a bigger pattern, so it's not so busy. It can even go bigger if you want to, but that's how you edit the size of a texture map. And it's almost hard to see it happen. You put the number in and it changes right away. That's too loose. So I'll stick 36 or 40. These are correlated together. You see the little chain and the, I guess. And if you click on it, there are some of these textures, you see it opened up, where I can use two different numbers. With it closed like that, they're linked. So whatever number I put 1, it's going to duplicate. Not every material has the ability to do this, but this one does. So I can put different numbers in. It's not going to make any difference here in this case because it's pretty uniform texture. But if you wanted to change the scale of something differently, going in X and Y direction, you can. So I'll go back to the beginning here, where we started this particular video, and call this good. I think we have enough information here for you guys to build a building if you want. This could be applied to wood framing, could be applied to steel framing, could be applied to aluminum framing. Literally, you know, whatever you'd want to do this with. I just happen to be working on a steel building at this point, so it was of interest to me to do this. One other little thing, if you'll bear with me, if you notice this building is kind of slanted in on each corner, that's in perspective. If you go to camera and you pick 2-point perspective, it straightens those vertical lines out so they are vertical. And it's not exactly the way your eye sees things, but it's a little more, or a little less disconcerting, I suppose is the right way to say this. Where the building doesn't look like it's tilted out, it looks like it's straight up and down. So it's just a nice little trick if you have a client that is sensitive to certain things of that nature. If you look up in the upper left corner, it says 2-point perspective. That's what we have. Now, as soon as you orbit this, it's gone. So make sure you understand that panning and zooming are about all you could do. If you orbit it, it's going to go back, so you're going to have to go back and set it all over again. It is nice, you can move this around and it doesn't tilt, which is one of the things that perspective does when you start moving something around. It tends to tilt on you, where the 2-point doesn't. So it's a little more fixed. That's what happens when you orbit. So I think we're about done here. So this is it. We're at the end of steel framing with SketchUp. This was episode 5. That's the end of the steel framing videos. And next one I want to do is something that's more related to GIS system, Google Maps, and AutoCAD and SketchUp all in one pile, or you can get very, very accurate topography using GIS systems. And that's essentially very minor cost to you to get the drawings. They have, basically cataloged the whole world, at least in the United States. And but that's the whole world, I guess, according to us. The bottom line is we're done. Thanks for coming by, and I hope you take the time to like and subscribe. I know this has been a little bit circuitous, but like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. Have a great day.